Thank you for joining us today for our first ever online IALD Association update for members. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for being members of the IALD, whether it has been a year or 50 years. We appreciate you taking time out of your day or night to spend with us. Hello, I'm Leonard, President of the IALD, and today I'm joined by David Ghatan, our immediate past president, Ron Kurtz, our treasurer, and our CEO, Marsha Turner. For IALD's update, we would historically share at the enlightening conferences and see each other throughout the year. In this extraordinary year, with not being able to see each other, we wanted to give you an update earlier. We will present this update in 4 parts. The IALD before the COVID-19 crash, the financial impact of COVID-19 to the organization, providing our member value during COVID-19 and beyond, and the challenges and opportunities for the IALD in the future. And we also have saved the last 15 minutes for questions and answers with the executive team. Joe, can you explain that to us?
Sure, thank you, Douglas. Questions can be submitted in the questions box in the heads-up display on the left or right-hand side of your screen. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll get through them at the end.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And let me hand this over to David to go over our first part in this story, which is about the IALD before the COVID-19 crash.
Thank you, Douglas, and hello, everyone. It was only last year that the IALD celebrated our 50th anniversary. It was a year to reflect back and celebrate the past, present, and look to the future of the IALD. In the glow of our golden celebration, IALD had a lot to celebrate and was doing very well. It's amazing to think that what began as a small group of lighting designers grew into a large community with members all over the world. We now have 1,500 members in 60 countries and over 30 very active regions and chapters. In 2019, we held a strategic planning session with the IALD Board of Directors to ensure we were setting up a strong foundation and future for the next 50 years. During this session and several follow-up meetings, the board affirmed our core values: community, collaboration, innovation, integrity, and leadership. These values frame how we work internally and externally with each other, our partners, others in the profession, and our outward connections in accomplishing our mission. We then created long-term goals and priorities. One is to continue to raise the profile of the profession through our public policy efforts, International Lighting Design Awards program, our relationships with other organizations, and external actions. The second is to ensure that member engagement and participation remain strong. The value of membership, networking, and community. We recognize that in order to fulfill these core values and priorities, it requires resources, both financial and people. And so we created a goal to develop new and additional sources of revenue. Then COVID-19 swept through the world. No organization could have envisioned this pandemic and the impacts of this pandemic. There's quarantine, no travel, no light fare, our largest source of revenue. All IALD in-person events and enlightened conferences were canceled, also a loss of revenue. The reverberations have been deep. Now we move to the second part, which is about the financial impact of COVID-19 to the organization. I'll hand it over to Ron.
Thank you, David, and hello, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the IALD finances, and part of that conversation is specific to revenue. So that's what we're going to focus on for the portion of this conversation. Prior to this year, we recognize that we have had an unbalanced revenue structure with a disproportionate amount of money coming from a single source, and that source is light fare. To have such an imbalance in our income is risky, and we were very much aware of that. Discussed how to achieve better balance and decided on expanding existing sources of revenue and to add some new ones. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit before we could take significant action. We have had to face reduced revenues. As many of you may know, the IALD is one of 3 partners, along with the Illuminating Engineering Society and International Market Centers, in the ownership of Lightfare. What many of you may not know is that Lightfare generates about 75% of our annual revenue. The success of our partnership in Lightfare has afforded us the opportunity, it's given us the money to offset the costs of our programs and services to the benefit of our members. This means that we've been able to keep our dues low and keep the costs of our programs low. When COVID-19 hit, the impact to the IALD was great. Like many other trade shows and conferences around the world, Lightfare had to be canceled. The IALD suffered both the loss of income from the show and still had to account for the costs of the show that did not take place. We also determined that both of our planned Enlighten conferences, Enlighten Europe and Enlighten Americas for 2020, would also be rescheduled. And other face-to-face activities had to be canceled as well. Altogether, this caused an 80% reduction in anticipated revenue for this year. Our budgeted revenue structure shows how much we ordinarily depend on Lightfare, along with our other revenue generating activities. But in our pandemic revenue structure, which is much more balanced, but has a lot less income. For 18 years, the IALD has had the foresight to intentionally put aside funds and build strong reserves for a time of need. We are better off than many other organizations and associations right now that did not have the same foresight. But we are now in that time of need. This year, we will be tapping into the reserves to help cover our costs. We are certainly living in a time of uncertainty, and it looks like it's going to be that way for a while. We pivoted quickly. We're managing our expenses down and have cut 35% of expenses for this year. We're very carefully planning for 2021. The board is looking at what will best serve the IALD and help meet our strategic goals and objectives. Priorities are to expand new revenue sources and to reinvest in the evolution and success of Lightfare. But we don't know what our revenue will look like in the future, certainly not the near future. So to be prudent, we are going to live carefully for a while and assume that IALD will have less revenue to work with. So now I'm going to turn it over to Marsha, who is going to tell you what IALD has done to provide value to its members during this challenging time.
Thank you, Ron. So from the minute we saw the pandemic tsunami coming, we knew that we would have some big decisions to make and major changes to embrace. There was an immediate need to look at and do things differently. So we knew we, as a membership organization, wanted to continue to deliver value and as much as possible maintain consistency. We also knew that we would need to embrace change, look for new opportunities, and of course, accept that there would be a great deal of uncertainty. We've been fortunate to have our core values and purpose to guide all of the decision making. It's important to remember that IALD is much more than its programs and services. The IALD has been and always will be a very special community, an anchor point around which lighting designers can gather and connect with each other. In addition to providing that special community and connection, IALD represents our members and more broadly the profession, working diligently to raise awareness about the value that lighting designers bring to projects, the public, and the world. That has always been an anchor point of IALD and always will be. So what did we do this particular year? Well, we made a very quick pivot. The office, like all of you, quickly moved into an all virtual environment. And as Ron mentioned, we had a major revenue shift, and a major revenue shift means some major adaptations. So we did a rapid rethink and virtual flip for all of our programs, services, and activities. We knew we wanted to continue to maximize value, eliminate redundancy, and of course, minimize cost. We reduced expenses across the board. So that means we put a hold on all large expenditures. We eliminated travel and in-person meetings, just like all of you did. We found new operational efficiencies, and part of that was to cut staff salaries. All of these measures were taken to continue to deliver to members what they value most from the IALD. We looked at everything we had planned for the year. We determined what could proceed as planned, what had to go away, what had to be adapted, and what new things might be needed. I'm going to mostly talk about what had to be adapted and the new things that we are engaging in. The first thing we did was we did a survey of our members to determine what challenges you are facing, what's going on for you, what concerns you have. And from the input that we received from that survey, we have crafted a number of new resources for you. One is our COVID-19 page on our website. As we find information that is relevant for you as members, lighting designers, business owners, it goes on the COVID-19 page. We also developed a series of webinars. We have developed over 30 webinars, none of which were planned for this year, a number of which have been headlined by you as IALD members, sharing information about what is happening with you and how you are resolving those problems. We have had over 2,000 participants in those webinars. So we have been able to expand and extend our reach in a way that we had not anticipated when we began 2020. We also adapted IALD's International Lighting Design Awards for online delivery. And that was a very successful online event. We had greater participation online than we have had in person. We had more than 500 people participate the night of the event. And subsequent to that, we have had more than 9,000 views of the presentation. This is another testament to a virtual environment giving you the opportunity to expand your reach. We've also been leveraging our social media channels to maintain and promote continued community and connection for our members and the greater lighting community. Our region and chapter coordinators have done an absolutely fantastic job of taking all of their planned activities for 2020 and moving them into a virtual environment. And even though they are focused for the local stakeholder group, they have discovered great cross-pollination with chapters in different areas of the world collaborating on some of their activities. As you heard, we had to reschedule our in-person Enlighten conferences. And so we're in the process of developing a taste of Enlighten Americas and Enlighten Europe for online delivery. Enlighten Americas will be in October, and Enlighten Europe will take place in November. I hope you will participate and use it as an opportunity to connect with your colleagues and friends. In addition to the sessions that we have planned, we have a number of fun interactive activities. And of course, one of those is Lighting Crosstalk. I hope you will participate, in particular in Lighting Crosstalk, and take the opportunity to provide your feedback to our LARC members who have been staunch supporters of the IALD during this time, prior to this, and particularly during this time of disruption. Just as we've seen with our virtual IALD awards, which gave us an enhanced opportunity to showcase excellence in lighting design and raise the profile of the profession. Operating virtually has given us a unique opportunity to expand our reach and our messaging beyond our normal reach, and using channels that we have heretofore not employed to the extent that we are employing them this year. It also has given us new revenue opportunities for our programs, services, and activities. We all want to get back together, and we can't wait for the opportunity to come back and interact in person. Operating all virtual will not be our reality forever. It is our reality for the moment. Reduced revenue also is a current and near future reality. So we will not be spending money that we do not need to spend. We will not be having in-person meetings that we do not need to have. Our consideration is and will be about how to achieve our goals by thinking and doing differently, how we adapt and innovate in order to be responsive to member needs, provide value, and continue to grow. Now, to talk about challenges and opportunities for the future, I am going to turn you back over to IALD President Douglas Leonard.
Okay, first, this is an opportunity to acknowledge the work of the IALD. So thank you, Marsha, and the IALD staff for continuing to ride this pandemic wave. In scenarios like this, where there are many unknowns and many obstacles, finding answers is not simple. And we have our core values. They are our center. That is how we frame decisions. Our core values are community, collaboration, innovation, integrity, and leadership. So we focused on what we know, a few likely scenarios, and looked for opportunities. I am optimistic about the future. We can be an organization that is resilient, nimble, and ready for an unknown future. And I know this based on what we have already done and what we are able to do. We have seen that we can create an organization which can grow and flourish. And I will paraphrase what past President Victor Palacio has said. Instead of chasing butterflies one by one, the IALD has built a beautiful garden where we can all congregate. As more designers join us, the community grows deeper roots and flourishes. And we have grown our association based on our core values. And with any garden, we need to continually nurture it as it grows. We are now embarking on version 2. This version of our beautiful garden needs more gardeners. We need our members and friends to all come together, roll up sleeves, and actively participate. Together, the garden continues to thrive. We know that much of our success in creating our garden is due to the growth of the IALD regions and chapters. This growth has happened organically through our grassroots efforts in local communities all over the world. Our regions and chapters give our members and friends a way to reach out to each other, build relationships personally and professionally, and be a part of a greater community of people who share the same passion for light and lighting design. Since COVID-19, the need to connect with others and be part of a greater community is even more important than before. This network has been cultivating local and global connections by transforming their in-person activities to virtual activities. It's through our regions and chapters and members just like you who are actively engaging locally that we have created such a vast global footprint. So thanks to that leadership and engagement of members at the local level, the IALD continues to lead as a truly global and local organization, a truly local garden. During the pandemic, 2020 has also been a time of social unrest. We have seen grave injustices surrounding Black lives, which has greatly impacted each of us and the world. We all care deeply about this matter, as it represents a basic human right to truly be treated equally and fairly. As we continue to find depth in our profession, we find deeper engagement with moral and ethical concerns about diversity and inclusion. And this is not only about a specific geography. We believe this is a global issue requiring a local response, an opportunity for us to rise together. We have been listening to our members and have two areas we will focus on globally. Resources to help businesses to be more diverse and inclusive, and address pipeline issues by working through our local framework to reach Black and minority students earlier in education cycle. As we continue to seek success, we know that this is dependent on diversity and inclusion. This is a critical moment in the IALD's existence. We cannot move back to where we were. We need to move forward to a new future. We need to work together. The IALD will continue to support its core values: community, collaboration, innovation, integrity, and leadership. And we will support our membership in new ways, with new tools and new resources to us to thrive as a profession. This is your association. We are only as strong as we choose to be. Today, I invite you to get involved in your local community, volunteer to help reach out and connect with others, and invite new people into our butterfly garden. And let's grow our garden together. I will tell you personally that volunteering has been the most relevant learning source in my professional life. And it has allowed me to expand my perspective and get inspired by the talent and generosity of my colleagues. I ask you to help serve your association in this way. And for those who are already actively engaged, I thank you. And we are going to ask you to participate even more. None of us can go back. Things will not return to life pre-pandemia. We must move forward. And to make this work, we need you to raise your hand and volunteer. Well, thank you for listening to us share more about the IALD and how important you are to our future. We invite you to submit questions. David will be our moderator for the question and answer session.
Thank you, Douglas, and welcome everyone to the live Q&A. Let's just start with you, Marsha. What does the new normal look like for IALD?
Well, when you can answer that question for yourself, you probably answered it for everybody on the call. I don't think we're ever going back to what we did and the way we used to do it. I don't think that applies only to IALD. I think that applies to everybody. What our next normal is, we're in the process of formulating that. I see it as we're in a transition period. There's so much that we don't know We don't know when there will be a vaccine. We don't know how effective it will be. We don't know the parameters for people's comfort for coming back together. We don't know when people will be comfortable traveling. There's a lot that we don't know. So feeling that we are deprived or diminished or missing something, I think is probably not the best way for us to look at what is happening. We have opportunities that we never knew were there, or if we knew they were there, we just didn't have time to get to them, like offering all these webinars. So there are new areas to explore, and I would see that in the future we'll have there'll be a hybrid element to it for us. We will be able to come back together at some point and interact. That'll be changed based on social distancing and however that evolves. But I also expect there to continue to be an online, a virtual element to it. I think we've seen that we can expand our touch, and we want to explore that some more. One element of the new normal, though, of the next normal, is continuing to provide high quality outputs, but not spend as much money. And that's just a reality. It's a reality in your lives too. Don't spend money you don't have, and do your best and deliver good value, but don't spend money you don't need to be spending. So that's our near-term reality, and probably to be smart. I'm going to wait for Ron to nod again. To be smart and prudent. We're using some of our reserves. We want to replenish those reserves. So we'll see. Ask me again in 6 months, because we'll reprise this update at the Enlighten conferences, and I'm sure we will do this from time to time. So once the vaccine is in the works, come back and ask me again what the next normal is going to be.
Right. So trying to write a short-term normal and a new long-term normal simultaneously. Next question I'd like to ask from our questions here are, how will the IALD continue to grow globally during these circumstances, especially with less revenue? And Ron or Douglas, you want to field that?
I will jump now. I like to hear that our treasurer is focusing on the financial things, and and our CEO is talking about tactics. So I would like to and let me take that of the how to grow with less revenue. I think that at a membership level, I think that we will be even more active than before, probably. I think that not having the opportunity of these international in-person events, it opens an opportunity to start working more at a local level. And I think that our globalization plan, that it's based on a regions and chapters structure, it's the perfect network to serve our membership at that very local level. And they have been, our region and chapter coordinators have been working a lot during this period. And you have seen, or you can see how many events they have created, organized, and already done, coming up with very original and new ways of doing things. So I think that in the coming months, and years, we will see more of that. I think that this is a call for our membership, for us as members, to get in touch and start serving, participating in a very active way, even more than before. That is the way to grow. I think more from the from downside to upside.
Marsha?
I just want to add that Douglas said it just now, and he said it in his remarks, that about the butterfly garden. and the region and chapter network and the growth of the IALD. The IALD has never, at least since I've been with you guys, ever conducted a membership campaign. We have grown organically by connecting with each other and with you guys connecting with your peers in the profession. And the connection opportunities are afforded by some of the big events that you're all aware of and you all go to, but they're afforded through the region and chapter network and the efforts of our coordinators. And people connect with each other locally, and then they bring their friends in. So the butterflies bring the butterflies. So I don't see a difficulty in growing during a time of reduced revenue, because it has not depended on revenue for the growth that we've experienced.
Great.
I would throw in as well, not to overuse the butterfly metaphor, but I think that this is an opportunity as well from the local level to recognize that lighting impacts us all in very distinct and profound ways. And from the butterfly perspective, while the lighting butterflies may be out there, there are other butterflies that we can bring into that are not the same as we, and we can expand how lighting impacts the built environment much more broadly, I believe, at that local level. Invite your clients, invite your friends, invite people who have like-minded considerations with light. So
it's a really, really nice sentiment, Ron, of really expanding our community to include the broader built environment.
mm-hmm.
So Ron, I actually want to start with you on this next question, something that's been asked a few times in questions here, and I know it's really resonated with you, as I think it has a number of us. What are IALD's next steps to support diversity and inclusion?
Well, I would imagine, first off, the diversity component to this is very personal to me, as my wife happens to teach in a school district that is mostly composed of minority students, and we become very attached. It's a very tight environment. In the long term, I'm expecting that the IALD would probably seek to develop some strategic materials that would allow local regions and chapters to take an active role to address diversity issues. Marsha may be able to speak to that in a little bit more detail. But given the current economics that we have at the moment, I'm not certain that the IALD can do very much from a global perspective at the moment. Again, I think this comes back to the global component of this, that this is more of a grassroots effort, that all of us should be seeking to engage minority students wherever possible, to broaden their experiences so that they all can understand what might be involved within the design and, or the built environment as well. Introduce them to what lighting might be. And this may want to take place earlier in our education cycle rather than later. From an elementary perspective, or perhaps a pre-secondary perspective, but try and become much more active with younger students to introduce them to the positives of the built environment, including lighting design. From an IALD perspective, maybe Marsha might have some additional ideas on that.
You've kind of covered it really well, but I'll just add that part of what we already do as a professional society is provide resources for members, and one line of resources is for business owners. And so it makes a lot of sense to add to that line resources that help business owners manage staff, address diversity, address unconscious bias in their business. And then it also makes sense, given the great work of our region and chapter coordinators and the impact that they have been able to have in their particular areas, for IALD to create basically kind of a recipe book of suggested ideas and activities, and let our members locally to them, either the coordinators organizing something or our members take those recipes and connect locally. Because Ron just said it, if we want to address the pipeline, we need to start with people before they're ready to get their first job. And so that means earlier in the cycle. Different people among you have been having and sending us different ideas about how to do that and at what point you should connect with people. So it seems to make a lot of good sense. If someone in this area says we need to talk to people in high school, and someone in this area says we need to talk to people when they're in elementary school and catch them when they're kids and they're young, and let them know that light is something that's fun to play with, and it can inspire them, that will have a far greater impact if we push it out to our members and let our members lead on that in the area where they are located. And it means that it won't cost the organization a lot of resources, because we're not running a major program. We're letting our members decide what makes the most sense for where they are.
Douglas, obviously you live outside the United States, and I wonder what your perspective on this is.
Well, I think that this is not as I mentioned before, I think this is not a geographic issue. I think that this is a matter that concerns the whole society across the world, and of course our professional community. So I think that all of our members are not only concerned, and we have been hearing them, and not only concerned, but they want to take action on that. So we thought, as an organization, what can we do? And I think that Ron and Marsha had covered that, but I think that at a global level, we need to go, or we are probably going to address the same question. We will try to see how we are going to start taking action into these matters in a way that it's tied to our local reality. So probably in different communities, you will see people seeking how to increase and serve these ideas of diversity, inclusion, and equity. I think that this is something that probably it's not only about the US, it's something that we will start looking and acting at a global level. And I think, of course, our regional chapters structure would help us in that.
This idea that IALD's maintained for a long time and is able to apply to this topic of it takes a local, boots on the ground, hands in the clay project, but it also takes a global level of organization and structure to work together to solve complex problems. And I think it's really a good unified message. So there have been a few questions about LightFair, so I'm going to kind of summarize them into a single one and address it to Ron first, and then anyone who'd like to jump in. How do you feel about LightFair changes and its potential moving forward? How has it changed for us, really, the lighting designers who want to attend?
Well, I think that there are probably several things to consider here. The first thing of consideration would be that the manufacturers would like lighting designers to be there. I think over the last few years, the LightFair Management Committee, made up of the executive teams from the IALD, the IES, and IMC, we've been trying to consider opportunities to make the attendee and the manufacturer experience at Light Fair a much improved condition. And really, in a lot of cases, we're taking our some of those improvements that have been considered are specific to comments that have been made by members of the IALD. So some of those improvements were specific to the way the show felt. The management committee over the last few years has come up with several ideas of how we can progress with making it a much more pleasant show to be at. Many of those considerations were actually going to be in place this year for the show that was going to be in Las Vegas, and unfortunately that was canceled. Additionally, we were taking a look at considerations associated with locale. That was one of the biggest concerns from a lot of lighting designers and from manufacturers from the standpoint of where the show was held. Next year's show, which is planning to move forward as of right now, isn't going to be in New York at the Javits Center. It's intended to be held during the iconic week of Design Week in New York City. And for a day or two, we'll co-locate for a short period of time with the International Contemporary Furniture Fair at Javits. So it's the intent for those kinds of synergies to continue in future shows. And what we're hoping is that this offers the exhibiting manufacturers the opportunity to reach a wider designer-based audience to their benefit. But the biggest thing is that we would like lighting designers to be there. And this is the important thing to remember as lighting designers of the IALD. This is your show. And as we had mentioned before, most of the revenue for the IALD comes from Light Fair. So we want you to be there. The manufacturers would like you to be there. We hope you plan to attend next year.
There's a comment that Light Fair doesn't feel like our show, that perhaps other shows engage more with lighting designers, and what is Light Fair doing to try to really fix that? I want to remind everyone, we are a partner in Light Fair, and as we talked about, it's the majority of our current revenue, and we really do need to make sure this is a show for lighting designers. Having had the privilege over the past several years to be in the management committee discussions, this group that with our newest partner IMC are really investing a lot of effort in focusing on designers as the primary audience and trying to build a ecosystem and a world around just that. So everything from the show floor layout to events that happen concurrently, to how the conference portion of Light Fair functions and timing so that people have more ability to get to it, to a designer's lounge, which was going to have sort of a higher level of design thinking and lectures going on. All of these things are really happening, including the decision to move it back to New York and co-locate it with the ICFF show during Design Week. So really trying to put that effort in, and I would say we were beginning to see momentum leading into Las Vegas this year with traction in terms of registrations and just online clicks that they're able to track. And unfortunately, that show had to be postponed. There was a lot of excitement to see if these initial efforts would pay off and start to really help refocus the show. I'd open that up to any of you if you have any other thoughts or comments about Light Fair.
I would like to add, I completely agree with you, David, but I would like to add that for many years, in my case, I didn't see it as our event. And I really look at it very from far away. All my community, my professional community, for instance, in Latin America, is very European oriented. So we used to visit other events instead of looking to this one. And that is confirmed by all the description of the event that Ron was making before. But the thing is, now, having the opportunity to be the part of these discussions, to understand more how it affects our organization, and other thing, how we can also influence in it. I think that we have a huge opportunity, and we are taking that opportunity. We have been working in that management committee as voting members and influencing all the decisions that have been making for the last years. So, and those decisions will have impact, not because of the pandemic this year, but you will be some moving forward. But the thing is, we can not only change things being in that committee. That is a very good point to start, but we need our community to get involved and support the event. I think we can make that. I invite all our attendees at this moment to do so, to see it as our event, and also to act like it is our event. We have representation there. You elect those representatives. So when you vote for a board member, when you vote when you vote for the president, you are voting for someone who will represent you in that management committee. So you have the possibility, the opportunity to influence there, and the other way is to support the event and be there.
So, Ron, I'll pass this next one over to you. Is what do you feel are some positives that we've discovered as a result of our COVID experience?
I think that the first positive I think about when I think about how the IALD has reacted to this whole is just how quickly Marsha and the staff were able to pivot and take a really bad situation, particularly because it happened right before Light Fair was going to happen, and turn it into some very positive results. Most notably, I would think, as we'd already mentioned it, were some of the virtual programs that were now being put on by the IALD that were available to members worldwide, some of which were worldwide issues and some of which were more localized. And I think having the ability to do that quickly, to take the place of some of our more traditional face-to-face meetings was quite impressive. And even though that's not where we necessarily want to be as a full-time component, but we've recognized that it has extended our reach a little bit. It's broadened our audience a bit. And from my personal perspective, it may have opened up some additional revenue opportunities.
Marsha, I know you shared with us a really wonderful anecdote relative to the awards, where someone reached out to you afterwards.
Oh yeah, David Mintz, one of the founders of the IALD. As soon as that program was over, my phone rang. And David commented how much he had liked it, how well done it had been. And he commented that he really liked not having to dress up and go to a formal event. He could sit in his home comfortably and see the greatest lighting design in the world. And so he was very complimentary, and it made us feel very good. Our team worked very hard on that. We've got a wonderful team of people that work for the IALD, and everybody is creative and innovative, and they like challenges. Nobody likes quite this many challenges. But I won't say it's all been enjoyable, but it has been fun figuring out how to do these things. And Ron, thank you for your kind words. I will relay them to everyone, because that's I'm very glad that to hear you say what you said. Thank you.
Well deserved.
Yeah. Let me add something there, David. I think that as a positive aspect of this pandemic, I think that not many people love change, and we really love to be in our comfort zone. Even the people that are in a creative world, we are attached to the way we know things work already. So we have been pushed to the boundaries, and I think that once we jumped, I think we're feeling that freedom, that we have the ability to create a lot of new things. And I think that we are starting to feel that freedom, and that is a very positive state of bringing new programs and things to serve our membership. I think that we're getting to that stage, and I think that's a very positive thing. We were pushed there, and now we need to flow, and so that's a very good thing. And I think that you're doing also a very good job on that. So we'll see.
I sort of liken this to as LED was the disruptive technology to all of our work and the tools we use for lighting design. I think COVID in many ways has been a disruption to how IALD operates, but yet there really is the same principles in our core values, and they're resilient, and we just are finding new ways of connection and relevance. So it's been really wonderful and fascinating to see. Obviously, very tough times. So I think we have time for really one last question here, and I'd actually like to address it to you, Douglas, which is similar to some of the ones we've had, but really a broad question of how can I help the IALD right now?
Well, I have good ideas for you, David.
There's a broad I in that question.
Okay. No, I think that there are many ways you can serve now or help support the IALD, and I would just maybe name some of them. So, but I think that we have said it before here. This update by, I think the most important, get in touch with your local coordinator, your region and chapter coordinator, and offer your help. Say, I'm here, raise your hand and say, I'm here to serve, collect, to contribute to. They have plans, they have already many things they want to do, but they are looking for volunteers, and they are looking for volunteers to attend to their events or to bring new people there. So it's a way of nurturing our garden. So that would be my first suggestion. Second, and Ron said, invite other people, extend this network. Invite not only your colleague, invite your client, invite your supplier. This garden is an open field, and we need a lot of people. We want to lead this lighting design world. Okay, so we need to bring more people to our garden and share what we think about this garden can be, and involve them in that. So second, I think that participate, sign up for the conferences. We have the Enlighting Americas 2020, our virtual version, and we have the Europe conference too. So we will have it, one in October, second in November, and sign there, be there. It's a way of not only getting in touch to your fellows, but also to serve and support the organization. Other way of supporting is answering our surveys. That is very important for us. It's the way we know what are you expecting from the organization, especially the question, what does the IALD mean for you? I think that is our core question. That is the way that we figure out where our membership is focusing in. So that helps a lot to align our strategies. So vote. We have elections. We are looking to build our leadership structure, and what the people, your opinion is very important. So participate in the voting process. Other thing, and Ron described a lot on that, go and visit Light Fair. It's Light Fair 2021. It's our show, and we have it's our show, and we are also being part in that renew, that new phase of LightFair. So we need you there. We need you there to get the experience of what we are creating as partners of that event, and also to get your feedback, and also to be supportive of that. So that is a very important thing to do, no matter, and we have an audience that is global. This is not only about the US. I'm talking about the IALD as a global community. That is our event, and we are improving a lot there. And pay your dues. I know you mentioned that, but the graphics that Ron showed, you can see now that there's a different balance in our revenue, and now the dues are quite important. And so pay your dues. It's serious for the IALD. And last but not least, I would ask you to thank the LIRC members for the continuous support of our organization. They have been supporting in difficult times also for them. And so I would ask you to, if you are in touch with your supplier, your rep, whatever, give that message out. Thanks for supporting the IALD, because without your support, probably our update would be even different than this one. So thanks for that. And said that, I think that if that answered the question, I think that we're coming to the close of this session. I only want to thank the attendees. Thank you, of course, Ron, Marsha, David, for your contribution to explain our community about where we are and where we're going. And thank everyone to being here tonight or this morning, wherever you are. And I think that you can, if you have more questions, you can email. I think that there is an email there. You can email the president, and we will, or you have another question for our panelists. So we will try to answer you as soon as possible. Said that, I would say just goodbye and have a nice day or night wherever you are.